All right, today we're going to be looking at how to create a double exposure photograph in Photoshop. So this is what we mean by double exposure. This is an example of a completed double exposure piece where you have the portrait of a girl and then you also have this mountain scene kind of imposed on top of the girl as part of who she is. So you guys are going to be creating a double exposure image portrait of yourself. So I'm going to walk you through this process using the online version of Photoshop, which is a little bit more simplistic than the full program. So once you're logged in, and we've gone through the login process in class, I'll have a separate video on how to log into that if you need to refresh. We're going to start with the Create button. And then we're going to click document sizes. And I do apologize if you can hear the students in the classroom next to us. We'll just do the best we can to talk over them. We're going to go to most common. And I'm going to choose 8.5 by 11 because that's the size of a normal sheet of paper. Now, if you wanted to go landscape, like wide, you could do 11 by 8.5. But I know that the girl that we're going to use for our picture will fit nicely in this portrait. Okay. A couple things that I want to draw your attention to about the location of things that you're going to be using. Our toolbar is over here on the left-hand side. If you hover over a certain tool, it's going to tell you a little bit more about that particular tool, okay? This is similar to the Photoshop program, but very simplified, okay? Over here on the right-hand side of the screen, we have our layers box, and I'll be showing you that, and we'll be working in this box a lot as we go through our project. So the first thing we want to do is add in our portrait. Now, you should have your portrait inside of your project folder on your desktop, and you can just open that, click and hold, drag, and drop. And now we have our picture inside of Photoshop, and we can see we have a new layer that has our portrait. Over here on our toolbar, if you are on the size and position, if you click on an object, it's going to allow you to resize that very easily. You don't have to use any commands. And then you can click done, okay? Now, the first thing we want to do is get rid of the background behind our girl to have a nice clean silhouette of our subject. So what we're going to do is click this button. We're going to make sure that we are on her layer and click select subject. And up here you can see that it is selecting the subject, doing it automatically. And we get these lines. Now this did a pretty good job of selecting our subject. The one thing that I don't like is I've got this weird strand of hair down here that I want to get rid of. So down here on the bottom you have the select more if it missed something and you want to add to your selection, or you have select less. So I'm going to click select less. And then I'm going to click and hold around this hair, and you can see it deselects the hair so that I have a nice clean line along her neck and chin. So what I want to do to get rid of the background is come over to my layers, and with that still selected around her, I'm going to hover over this button right here. It says create mask to hide everything except the selected area. When I click that button, watch what happens. I now have a nice clean background behind my subject. Now that I've gotten rid of that background, I think I want to make her a little bit bigger. So I'm going to click on size and position, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up a little bit bigger. You can have her coming off the page. You can have her centered. Okay, I'm going to go kind of more rule of thirds here. Bring her off the page a bit. Okay. All right. I like that placement for her. Okay, I think that's a good placement. Now, this is an optional step. You are going to have to decide whether or not you want your subject in color or you want your subject in black and white. If you want your subject in black and white, then we need to add an adjustment layer. So you need to be active on the picture. Okay, so make sure you have your picture selected right here. And you're going to come above it to this circle. It's half white, half black, and it says adjustment layers. And we're going to click that button, and we're going to choose black and white. And you can see that now our subject has turned black and white. You can adjust the different darknesses of the different shades within the original picture, Or you also have the option to turn on the tint. And you'll notice that if you turn on the tint, it gives the black and white kind of this colored overlay. And you may decide that you want to use that later, and you can totally do that if you want. So now I have 3 layers. I have my base background white, I have my portrait layer, and I have this black and white layer. And next to all of the layers, there's a little eyeball. And if I click the eyeball, I can actually turn that layer on and off. So if I turn off the black and white layer, I can see her in color again. Okay? So now we have our subject placed in our picture. We need to now add the element that we are going to use for our double exposure. So for me, I chose the mountain picture. I'm going to go ahead and drop the mountain picture in and extend it pretty far so that it covers her completely. Okay, right about there. Now, obviously, I can't see her anymore, so we need to create what is called a clipping mask. Okay, so we're going to click on our mountain picture. Okay, now here's a little problem that I did not consider. That's what we need to do. Okay, I apologize. We're going to step back a little bit. If you added a black and white layer, then it's going to sandwich itself between the portrait and the mountains, and you're not going to be able to clip your mountains to the portrait unless you clip your black and white to the portrait as well. So we need to click on our black and white layer, and up here at the top, there is a little square with an arrow pointing down, and it says Create Clipping Mask. We're going to go ahead and click that, and the only thing that's going to change is you should now see this little arrow pointing down to the portrait. Okay, now we're going to click on the mountain, and we're going to use the same clipping mask button again, and now this time you see a much bigger change because the mountains have now clipped to the portrait of the girl. Now, this is very cool, but we don't want to stop here because this isn't really double exposure. This is just cutting the mountain picture into the shape of her silhouette. So we're going to use blending. We're going to blend our mountain and our portrait together. So up here in blend, I am going to come down, and if you click on different layers, you will see different effects start to take place. So I normally like to either use lighten or screen. Okay, you can choose here what style you like the most if you like the color dodge. I think I like the screen the most. Okay, now we can see some of the features starting to come through of our girl here in this picture. Okay, now say you want to see a little bit more of the girl and a little less of the mountains. We can come up here to the opacity, and we can bring the opacity down on the mountains so that the girl is coming through a little bit more. You see that right there? Okay. Another option is to add a layer mask to our mountains and select where we want to have the mountains showing up the most. So I'm going to click on Create Mask, and I get this white box, and nothing seems to have happened to my picture. But now what you can do is you can paint away parts of the mountain picture. So I'm going to come over here to the toolbar and choose the paint. Now when you're painting on a mask, you have to make sure that the white mask is selected, and then you have to think black and white is plus and minus. So if you're over here and you're painting with a black brush, then watch what happens. The mountains start to go away, okay? And I can see the girl's face a little bit more. So in this case, with the black mask, with the white mask, the black brush is erasing, okay? If I switch and I come over here to white and I change it to white and I start to paint back, look what happens. The mountains come back and the girl's face goes away. One thing you also want to pay attention to is under brush, if you choose advanced settings, you can change the opacity. Watch what happens if I bump it all the way up to 100, okay? I'm going to switch back to black. All of a sudden, it's a very harsh brush, okay? It's erasing completely. We don't necessarily want that. We want to bring our opacity down, and we want to paint in a little bit at a time with multiple clicks to keep what we want to keep the most, okay? Now, you can also take this brush and kind of decide if you want to get rid of something altogether, okay? Okay, so one thing you can also choose here is you can turn off your black and white layer. See the difference between, that's what her skin looks like in black and white. That's what it looks like in color. Now let's say you want your mountains to be black and white too. You can click on the mountain layer, come back up here to adjustment layers, choose black and white, and now all of the image is in black and white, okay? Oops. All of the image is in black and white. Now this is really pretty, but I don't feel like it's quite done yet because our background layer is just kind of plain. So I'm going to scroll back down to my background layer. I'm going to click on the layer, okay? And I am going to click layer styles. Yep. Okay, so background layer, the square, double square, layer styles. And here you can choose how you want to do this. You could do a color overlay. And if you do a color overlay, it's just going to be a solid color. Okay, you can choose a color in here that you might want. Okay. You can change the background color, and that's fine, but it's still kind of flat for me. So I don't want to do a color layer. I want to do a gradient layer. So I'm going to choose gradient overlay. Now what a gradient is when you go from one color to another color. So you go from white to gray in this one. When you select a gradient overlay, you can choose the type of overlay. So for example, if I wanted to do, oh, I'm in black and white, so everything's going to show up. I'll show you in color in just a second. Okay. I can do something a little harder like that. You can also grab this circle and you can change the direction of the overlay. Okay. So if you want to do something like that, decide which direction you liked it the most. Okay. This just adds a little bit more depth to the picture. Okay. Now I do want to show you something. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to turn off all of my black and white layers so that I have a colored image. I'm going to come back down here to layer 1 and choose layer styles. And with the gradients, if you open all of these colors, it's going to give you some preformed overlays. So I'm going to choose cloud. So now I can see I've got this nice blue to white. Okay. You can change if it's circle, if it's angled, if it's reflected. Okay. Sorry, you can hear my daughter. You can change the color. If I come in here and choose red, it'll do a prefabbed red. Okay. Under advanced settings, you can choose to turn things on and off. Okay. You can customize a lot of stuff in here. I think that's probably basic for you guys right now, and we'll keep it on that. I am going to go ahead and take this back to maybe a soft green. We'll do that, okay? So that would be how you could finish that up, okay? So you guys are going to be working on this, combining your two pictures to create a really nice piece and then putting it on a background. You can either do a colored background or you can do a gradient overlay. I can't wait to see what you guys create.